Well, we've been in dialogue with China. The president mentions initiating dialogue. We've been in dialogue on all these issues going back to Clinton days and before, and not have accomplished as much as we would like. The importance of this visit is to get some indication as to whether next year things will change, because the president can continue diplomacy or he can take much more assertive action if he chooses. The fact that China is our banker is really not that big an issue. China essentially buys a lot of dollars to keep its currency cheap. If it didn't convert those to bonds, they'd go out of circulation and the Fed could print new dollars and buy the same bonds, and it's all a wash. So that's not really an issue. And what we're really doing is these two men are feeling each other out. They both come from backgrounds where they were very challenged as children.
Oh, that's an interesting point. You know, the other thing, though, is these two systems are very, very different. You know, you've got a communist, a government in China that is growing. Its economy is growing, but it's still a poor country, right? And then you've got the United States. You put these two political systems back, next to each other. You've got the Republican candidates, arguing about who's going to be toughest with China.
Well, it's always that way. When Mr. Clinton was running for president and Mr. Obama ran for president, they both talked about getting tough with China and how the Bushes weren't tough enough. So that's nothing new. What's interesting here and what will be unique is that China will be the world's largest economy in about 10 years, even if the U.S. economy gets itself going and grows at 4%. China, in 15 years, will be the largest, but it'll still be, on a per capita basis, very poor. And we've never had before the world's largest economy at the same time a relatively poor economy in terms of per capita income, which makes its agenda and its interest in stability very different than we are accustomed to in statecraft.
Well, and stability is the key here. I mean, the Chinese always say that the most important thing is using their prosperity for stability within their country. But in the United States, we look at their stability within their country and we see repression in Tibet. We see human rights violations. We see things that aren't necessarily conducive to the American worldview.
Well, the Chinese people have a lot more freedom than they did 20 years ago, but only within certain boundaries. Behavior that is considered to be inconsistent with internal stability and the continued dominance of the Communist Party is not permitted. And you have to remember, the Communist Party is not just a political entity. Great wealth is being created in China, just as it is on Wall Street. And a lot of that wealth flows to the children and relatives of party leaders. This is very much a feudal system, a feudal governing system superimposed on an emerging capitalist society.
Peter, let me ask you something really quickly because we have to go, but there's this sort of this anxiety, I guess, in the United States among some people who say, the 19th century belonged to England, the 20th century belonged to the United States. It is China's century, and the Chinese know it. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I believe that whether or not, first of all, the world needs for America to leave because we are the protectors of democracy and human rights. Whether or not we continue to lead is up to us. The British stopped leading not because they were not capable, but because they got too tired. The question is, are Americans still up to the task? Do we still have the energy?